So life force is made up or generates many other forces that are at work in the universe. An obvious one is gravity. We all know, and science knows all about that. Sound waves are another force in the universe that's at work. The pull of the moon on the tides is another example of a force of the universe at work. The sun's nourishment to ourselves and to plants. These are all universal forces at work. But on top of these very obvious ones, there are a myriad others, much more subtle, much less obvious, that are at work in and around us 24 hours of the day. These are what we call the Shoten Zenjin, or, to give it its old-fashioned name, the Buddhist gods. By striving to follow a positive course of life, these forces will protect us, because their very nature is aiming towards creation and progress and value. Mr. Toda once said, whenever I do Gongyo, I feel that all the Buddhist gods are lined up either side of me. And as I bow to the Gonzen, they bow with me. We feed the forces of the universe with our positive force generated through our Gongyo and Daimoku. Then they will work for value for us, rather than working against us or disappearing altogether if we're in a negative or destructive state. This is what it means in this Gosha when it says that the sages and the gods leave the country. If people are negative, then the forces of value will disappear because they have nothing to feed them, nothing to work on, nothing to relate to, nothing to be in rhythm with. This is why in the very first introduction of his novel, The Human Revolution, President Ikeda wrote, "A great revolution in character, in just a single man, will help achieve a change in the destiny of a nation, and further will cause a change in the destiny of all mankind. This is the main theme of my story," he said. One person working in rhythm with the forces of the universe can change everything in his own environment and an increasing number of things further and further out from his own particular life. So when we bow to the Gonzen, according to the principle of eshō-funi, our environment bows as well. When we're angry, our environment will be equally upset. When we're in the state of Buddha, our environment will join us in the Buddha state as well. So, of course, we can prove this for ourselves in our daily life. And it is through this, the workings of this principle, that we gain benefit. We find as we practice that our environment does begin to work with us. This benefit is caused by that, by the environment bending towards us rather than against us or away from us. Nichiren Daishonin, towards the end of his life, on the beach at Tatsunokuchi, proved man's relationship with the universe. As you know, he was saved from being beheaded when the sword was actually above his head through this incredible, brilliant comet shooting across the sky and lighting everything up brilliantly, so that the soldiers fled and their horses broke loose and ran, and there was absolute chaos. He proved through his strong prayer, which he'd carried out just before he got to the execution place, that man is totally interconnected with the universe and everything in it. So, of course, scientists know that comets and stars have an effect on the Earth. But what they don't know is why such phenomena occur at a particular time. It was at a particular time that that brilliant comet shot across the sky and saved Nichiren Daishonin. And just to make sure everyone understood it, a second occurrence took place on the next night. This is all recorded in a gosho called On the Buddha's Behavior. It's very exciting to read. If you haven't already read it, please read it. It's a thriller in itself. But I'll ask John just to read this bit about the second occurrence.
Now it was the night of the 13th. There were scores of warriors stationed around my lodging and in the main garden. Because it was almost the middle of the 9th month, the moon was very round and full. I went out into the night garden, and there, turning toward the moon, recited the Jigage portion of the Juryo chapter. Then I spoke briefly about the merits and faults of the various sects, and about the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. I said, "You, the god of the moon, participated in the ceremony of the Lotus Sutra, did you not? When the Buddha expounded the Hoto chapter, you obeyed his order. And in the Zokuri chapter, when the Buddha laid his hand on your head 3 times, you vowed to fulfill the command to transmit and protect the Lotus Sutra. Are you not the same God? Would you have an opportunity to fulfill your vow if it were not for me? Now that you see me in this situation, you should joyfully rush forward to shield the votary of the Lotus Sutra and thereby fulfill your vow to the Buddha. It is incredible that you have not yet done anything. If nothing is done to bring this country to justice, I will never return to Kamakura. If you do not intend to do anything for me, how can you continue to shine on complacently? How do you read the following passages from the sutras? The Daijuku Sutra states, the sun and moon do not show their brightness. The Ninno Sutra reads, both the sun and the moon shall act discordantly. The Saisho-o Sutra says, the 33 heavenly gods will be enraged. What is your answer, moon? What is your answer? Then, as though in answer, a large star, bright as the morning star, fell from the sky and struck a branch of the plum tree in front of me. The soldiers, astounded, jumped down from the veranda, fell on their faces in the garden, or ran behind the house. Immediately, a fierce wind started up, raging so violently that the whole island of Enoshima seemed to roar. The sky shook, echoing with a sound like pounding drums.
This, I might say, is also recorded in government records of those times. So really Nichiren Daishonin was proving for us all, this was the purpose of Tatsunoguchi and the purpose of this incident, to prove to us that if we chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo with our whole heart and do Gongyo and practice exactly as the Buddha taught, then the Shoten Zenjin, the forces of the universe, will definitely work with us and ensure that we can continue our life and fulfill our purpose. Please, when you're against difficulties, chant with that in mind. Of course, Nichiren Daishonin is saying how his mind was working as he was chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. That is the way our mind should work when we find ourselves in a tight corner. With that determination, that strength, then there is nothing that you won't overcome. This, I know myself, many of you here have proved it for yourselves. This is the way the universe will work if we're moving in a positive direction with the intent of creating value wherever we go. So I think that's a fitting ending. With that sort of attitude, this world can be totally transformed. And our task is to go on teaching and telling others about the ultimate truth until we have enough people in the world to prevent disaster through activating the great life force of Buddha, which exists in every single human being if they only knew it.